Lunar Beauty is one of the original influencer makeup lines, and it started way back in 2018, and it was super popular. I remember that a lot of their stuff, particularly their blush palettes, used to sell out like crazy. Now they've kind of gone down in popularity, I think, because YouTube isn't as popular as it once was. It's now shifted all the way over to TikTok, etc. But there's been lots of different controversies, the various Dramageddons, but also you can't get Lunar Beauty as easily as you once could. You used to be able to get it on Beauty Bay, and now you have to buy directly through Lunar Beauty itself. But there is a new launch to discuss, and I have to say a massive thank you to Makeup On Your Radar. They sent me all of these pictures, so let's discuss. So Manny started by dropping these pictures of the promo, and I have to say this is just giving ethereal beauty. I love anything that's very like fairy themed. I don't know why, but I do. I think this looks extremely pretty. And on an unrelated note, I want Manny's top. I don't think I can pull it off, but I want it nonetheless. So this new collection is called the Moonshroom collection. Quite a hard word to say, but it's launching this Friday at 12 p.m. CST. And I have to say the packaging is very, very unusual. We haven't really seen anything that gives us that much colour. Usually the packaging is a lot more refined, and there's normally like some amount of like embossing where you can see that like the packaging is lifted. This feels quite different. Like I wouldn't have pegged this as being from Lunar Beauty, if you know what I mean. But obviously Manny showed this over on his channel, and this is the palette itself. And I have to say the colour story makes a huge amount of sense when you think about the fact that it's like Moonshroom. So it's meant to be like forest, fungi, etc. I have to say there's certain colours in here that I really, really like. So for example, that green down at the bottom, you know, the third from the left, that is so pretty. Now, the colour story in general isn't for me, and that's okay. It just is what it is. I loved the kind of pale purple down at the bottom. I feel like this could have been a little bit more interesting if it had more kind of cool tones up at the top. However, if it did that, then it wouldn't make sense for the theme. So I'm asking for a completely different palette, which makes absolutely no sense. And the swatches themselves do look extremely pretty, very pigmented. Anything that I've had in the past from Lunar Beauty has been very good quality. I'm just not purchasing from them at the moment, but that's a totally different story, and I'm not going to get into that. Normally his collections include like a blush palette. However, this time he's gone for a full highlight palette, which I think is actually quite smart, because normally he's kind of put blushes and highlights together. So this is going to retail for $36. I mean, I think it's quite nice. However, my issue with things like a highlight palette are that it's very difficult to have something that is going to fit absolutely everyone, right? I could probably get away with all of those shades because I am Casper the Friendly Ghost, but for deeper skin tones it probably won't work. So for things like that, I think it makes an awful lot more sense for them to come out with singles, and I know he's done that before, so I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity. However, $36 for 4 highlights, I mean that's $9 each. That isn't bad at all. And they do look quite pretty. I will say they look kind of like traditional highlights. There's nothing like wildly different about that. Does that sound a bit mean? I don't mean that in a mean way, but like there's nothing that's kind of making me go, ooh, I don't have this, because I have drawers of highlights. Don't ask, it's an issue. I will say his eye look absolutely gorgeous. He has the most beautiful eyes. I am jealous. But of course, it wouldn't be a Lunar Beauty launch unless there were some lip glosses. Arguably, his lip glosses are probably the most staple part of his brand. Everyone talks about them. And I will say, I feel like his liquid lipsticks were really good as well. So he has 3 new shades. There's Ella, Sol and Flora, and they're $17 each. And I do feel like the shades of the lip glosses make an awful lot of sense when you combine those with the palette and the highlighters. And I don't feel like he's necessarily duping stuff from his existing collection thus far. Of course, all of these are actually going to be available in bundles on Friday if you are interested, so keep an eye out. So what are my thoughts? Let me start with the palette first. I actually think the colour story makes a huge amount of sense. It's not duping anything that he has in his collection thus far, so I think that's very smart. The whole revamp of the packaging is really interesting. I haven't really seen anything quite like that, so it's always fun to see a brand innovating and doing something different. Is the colour story for me? No, but that's fine. Not everything can be, nor should it be for me. That would be foolish. The pigmentation looks really, really good. Anything that I've had in the past from them is really, really strong. The price isn't bad at all, $48. I would be interested to know, is this palette talc free? Because I know he came out with like some setting powders a while ago, but not quite a year ago, maybe 7 or 8 months ago, and they were talc free. So I'd love to see, has he extended that to his eyeshadow palettes? I think that could be really, really interesting. It's fine. The highlighter palette, again, I'm just going to be reiterating what I said before. I think they can be very, very dodgy products to put forward, because unless you're an MUA, you may struggle to use all of these. And I think it's often better to do singular products. I know that technically you can make it a lot cheaper by bundling them all together, putting them all into the one packaging. However, inevitably you end up with maybe 1, 2, worst case scenario, 3 shadows or shades that you can't use. And that is essentially a waste of money. You've just spent like $36 for something. I don't think the formula looks that interesting, but I will say he swatched it on his hand. And I mean, that'll only give you so much information. I need to see it on the actual cheek. Is it going to give a cast, etc.? So I don't know. It's not for me. But I think it's really interesting that he's not doing a blush palette. Kind of interesting to see that. Then, of course, the lip glosses, I mean, they're a really good formula. $17, that's not bad at all. The shades are fine. I think they're very wearable, very everyday shades. Now, let me get on to why I think Lunar Beauty has gone down in popularity. And I think it's rather unfortunate, because essentially Manny is very friendly with James Charles, and people have taken that as him kind of condoning his actions, and that's, I think, having quite a knock-on effect on his brand. I think that's really quite sad to see. I'm personally not buying from the brand, but that's my own thing. But I will also say, I'm not going to judge him for being friends with James Charles, because God knows I've been friends with people that I probably shouldn't have been friends with, and it's taken me a while to kind of snap out of the stupor. So I don't want to be that person who's like being all judgmental and saying like, oh, look at you with your actions, because I'm keeping in my own lane. You know, I should mind my own business. So I think that's rather unfortunate when he does have very good products. Like, that's the thing. And it's kind of shitty, really, when your friendships are the thing that people are talking about rather than the products themselves. As I said, they're much more difficult to get than they used to be 3 or 4 years ago. You used to be able to get them on Beauty Bay. You can't get them now. You have to go through the website themselves. This isn't a launch for me. It is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like this collection? Do you like the new direction? Let me know what you think. I am interested as always.